Have you ever heard someone say some shit like "don't talk to me until I've had my coffee" and thought it was pretty cringe? Good. Anyways, thanks to my generous friends who watch my content, I have had my coffee. So much actually. I haven't slept in 3 days. Help me.
This is Patrick.
Thanks to Sir John, Maya, Classical Numismatics, Christine and Leslie, and a special thank you to my homies Jordan and Mike. You're all awesome guys. Now let's get on with the video.
Due to popular demand, I am now going to be making fewer but longer videos on multiple topics in the form of a news report. Now, as previously mentioned, things are going to shit.
My life be like.
And consequently, people are becoming more aggressive and even crazier than they already were.
I just woke up in a fucking steaming mood, yeah? Because I live in a shithole! Do you know what I mean?
Egypt.
It's a fucking shithole! I hate the fucking place! I fucking hate it! It's full of dickheads! I fucking hate it!
So, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, let's get the grim news out of the way. This isn't necessarily about Egypt, but it does get involved. Recently, a tropical storm called Storm Daniel developed in Greece and made its way to the north coast of Africa, particularly Libya, causing massive flooding which effectively erased an entire area of the country. A real tragedy, and my heart goes out to anyone affected, directly or indirectly. Now let's talk about Egypt's involvement in all of this. Naturally, given that Libya shares the west border with us, there are a lot of Egyptians living there permanently or working there, some of which have been killed or displaced in this storm. Those whose bodies were recovered were moved back to Egypt to be given to their families for burial. And now, put yourself in the family's shoes. You would think this can't possibly get worse, right? That's where you'd be wrong. Border control refused to let them through until the bodies get ID'd. And I'm not talking like ID'd by, yes, that's my relative. ID'd as in having official documents with their identification presented. Now, I've never seen a flood victim's dead body, but my intuition tells me that one, they might be hard to identify, depending on how deformed they are, especially considering it's been a while and the case is probably already at work, which we'll get to in a second. And two, they're fucking dead. What security risk could a dead body possibly be? And how the fuck would a victim of a flood that erased an entire city have any documents left for them? Just have the families ID the victims if you're so concerned. After all, that's what they would want. They want their relatives' bodies back. They don't want some stranger's body. Now, I'd understand this if it was out of concern about disease. If that was the reason given for getting in the way of all this, it would make some sense. If we ignore the way our health ministry often handles issues, of course, because like, since when are they this cautious? But whatever, it would at least look decent. And this is an actual issue. There has been talk about evacuating the areas on the coast where the flooding led, since the bodies of victims there among rubble are hard to clear out and beginning to become a potential health hazard. Aside from being a general nuisance, to my knowledge, the Egyptian government did provide some aid to the relief efforts, but unlike all the other countries who did, they exploited it as a publicity stunt, defeating the whole point, especially considering that the aid we provided wasn't all that significant. And why would it? We ourselves need help right now. The same thing happened with the earthquake that struck Morocco just a little earlier. We also made a whole show out of the help we provided. The Egyptian Minister of Immigration says in a recorded discussion that preliminary estimations indicate the death of 300 Egyptians in Libya, 88 of which had their bodies moved to Egypt after confirming their identities. These numbers either were released early on or are fake. The death toll is so much higher than that. As with all natural disasters, in come the religion merchants and retards to spew bullshit and or try to recruit people into their cults of the death and suffering of others. This shred of the Quran survived the devastating hurricane in Libya. This is a decree to people, guidance, and advice to the pious. A response to this just about summarizes how I feel about this and any post of this type in general. So far, more than 10,000 people have died and more than 100,000 are missing, which is around 2% of the Libyan population, to the degree that some parts of the Libyan land has been erased off the map. But thank God, a shred of the Quran survived these events, and that alone is a miracle. This is how swindlers talk to their clients, the ignorant. Similar posts have been made about pretty much every single disaster I remember in the region. These miracles, which mean quite literally nothing and bring no benefit to anyone whatsoever, from both Muslims and Christians for that matter. I think it's just so dumb. I'm pretty sure there were other things more worthy of God's saving than a shred of paper of his own book. Another one here. A woman was documenting her experience through the flood as it was happening. 11/9/2023 in non-American format. 3:40 a.m. The people of Burg al-Shati gather on the 7th floor after the flood water has reached the 3rd floor. This is traumatizing. Still, some asshole manages to respond to this saying, "God help you," posting photos of women online. I don't know what you were thinking. To which the poster responds with, "Are they naked or something? They're more honorable than you. Understand what I'm saying first, then talk. Just God help you." Now, if this cunt wanted to be any more tone deaf, he would have to be literally pouring cement in his ears. Beats me how some people can be this insensitive, horny, and just delusionally religious. This woman continues to document her journey as they escape to a safe point after the water level lowers.
امشي مع المكان اللي تحب الناس يمشوا معاك. امشي مع نفس المكان اللي الناس يمشوا معاك. لا اله الا الله الا الله يا ربي. في ناس جايين. في ناس. خلاص طاحت طاحت. خلاص طاحت طاحت. يا ربي. خلينا نعيش ونصحى وشنا يمامنا حتى هو. هيا اصحى ميرو ميرو اصحى الفين. ميرو اصحى الفين يا جماعه. اصحوا يا ناس. نبضوا بس نبضوا قبل. اصحى انت ازاي حق انا اصحى. ها قاعدين. اصحى يا سرينتي اصحى سرينتي. يا ربي يا ربي يا ربي.
كلم اخوه يوم الخميس اللي فات ده، كان اخر مره قال له ده انا اجيب لبس للعيال وانسى، او جاب لبس لنفسه ونسي.
بلدنا كلها شغاله طول حياتها في دارنا دي، فالعدد اللي مات عندنا في بيوت ماتت منها 3، وفي بيوت ماتت منها 2، وفي بيوت مات منها 1. يعني لو حرب ما كانش حصل اللي حصل ده.
Which is why I said the numbers earlier are inaccurate. A response to this brings up a very interesting point about the state of things. The governorate of Beni Suef is the poorest in the country, according to the statistics from the National Center of General Mobilization and Statistics. When 70 people from the same village migrate to a country where there is an actual civil war and areas of active conflict because they can't live a proper life in their own country like normal human beings, that is the definition of extreme poverty and injustice. Which is true. At this point, I wholeheartedly believe life in a war-torn country can be better than it is here if the fighting is contained to a certain area, so long as you avoid that area. The only one pro left for Egypt right now is that your odds of catching a bullet in your day-to-day life are low, unless you're a woman. Here we fucking go again. The gates of hell have yet to close. I'm guessing they won't at this point. Not anytime soon. Another young woman falls victim to this society, but this story made headlines. A young man ends a girl's life in the street in front of a mosque in Port Said. This particular report doesn't give us much context, but other outlets and the people themselves have. The only reason I'm including this piece here is that it has the most responses from people. He's not just a regular guy and she isn't just a regular girl. The report is not complete. The girl is called Farida Nabil, was 24 years old, and the guy who killed her in the street would be her brother. Stopped her in the street and stabbed her with a knife in the neck, causing a wound from ear to ear, and then stabbed her again in the heart. She died instantly. So like, a brother slit his sister's throat in the street, and the disasters keep coming. The tragedies, killing, slaying, beating, and violence that girls and women in Egypt endure ceaselessly. Egypt has become one of the most miserable, dreadful, and depressing spots for a woman in the whole world. So now you know the who and how, but the main question still stands. Why? The slaughter of Farida Nabil at the hand of her brother for refusing to annul her engagement? I think the reason is more upsetting than the act itself. Aside from the obvious, this was none of his fucking business, it was her personal life. This will still most likely be treated as a so-called crime of honor, and he'll get off lightly or even scot-free. For those unfamiliar, crimes of honor are crimes committed by members of the victim's family, often against women, since honor only applies to sex and only to women, and the punishments for them are very light and are socially considered not condemning, heroic even. And now the responses. I haven't managed to find sympathy for the killer yet, so either this is algorithmic bias and I just haven't seen it, or it hasn't been conceived. Not yet anyway. Whoever argues that this country doesn't have systematic violence against women, I'll let him have it. A word of advice from my heart to any girl in Egypt is to migrate somewhere else, which I definitely wholeheartedly second. The outrage by men from the decision to ban niqab in schools in Egypt, niqab, not hijab, but I didn't see anyone say anything about the killing of women in Egypt. Which is more important, niqab or the life of women? I'm willing to bet many would answer this with the former. As for that decision, we'll get to it in a later segment. Don't you worry. Are you a female? Then you have no opinion. And if you think your life is in danger, whoever may be the cause, brother, neighbor, past lover, husband, father, the neighbor's son who likes you but you don't like back, stuff like this. And this bullshit breeds paranoia in women, so even as a decent guy, if you were trying to find love, it would be even harder than it already was, with all the financial demands of marriage here, and the hoops you had to jump through. And the harder it gets, the more guys turn to violence, and it's just a vicious cycle started and propagated further and further by the general societal norms. There's just no fucking hope for this place. The people have reached an unnatural level of boldness and dare. Where is the role of authority? Swiftness of sentencing would end this mess. The presence of police in the streets, actual and effective presence, day and night. The image of the country is shaky, folks, and people do not fear punishment, so they do their worst. While this is a good point, I wouldn't necessarily trust the Egyptian authorities with this. They are, after all, part of this society, and when they aren't indifferent, I reckon they would take the wrong side on this. And this never-ending series of immorality and filth. We've said it more than once, being a girl in Egypt is a disaster. Being a married girl in Egypt is twice as much a disaster. Being a married girl providing for kids in Egypt is 3 times as much disaster. As long as there is no environment to contain, protect, and defend. Again, while proper authority could mitigate this issue, I think the only real solution is for the people themselves to get their heads out of their asses and treat women as human beings with free will of their own. I'm starting to believe that a death sentence is no longer enough to discourage or punishment enough. People like this should be slowly tortured for a good while before they die. Quick death is a mercy this dog doesn't deserve. While I understand the feelings and logic behind this, 2 wrongs don't make a right, man. And besides, people would get numb to that too after a while, like they did with the death sentence. After all, the first fucker to do this did get executed, and yet here we are. People have even made him a hero, a martyr. So it's not really a permanent solution. I knew that psychopathic motherfucker called Muhammad Adil would open up a chain of blood and crime of a similar kind that just won't end. Especially that there's a bunch of psychopaths who made him a hero and wanted to bail him out. May he rot in hell along with all the likes of him. Muhammad Adil is the killer of Nayara Ashraf to those unfamiliar. I've talked about this plenty enough already in past videos, so I'll not be repeating anymore. The girl had a guy propose to her who had loved her for a while, and she agreed. The mallard, which is a male duck, a sarcastic term we use for the man of the house, or just a man trying to be alpha and shit, suspected they were in a relationship and insisted she doesn't marry him because she can't make a cuck out of him. She refused to leave her fiance, so he decided to kill her as vengeance for his own stupidity. This is not really new. Premarital relationships have always been a no-no here. Some people even go as far as not befriending people of the opposite sex. And some people say these are individual cases, exceptions. And now killing has become normal. It happens every day. Every day a new disaster, a girl either broken to pieces or slain in the street, totally normal, or getting blackmailed with pictures. Let's go. I'm not sure when can we start generalizing, so that just neutrals can shut up and we can take a step. How many women have to die? As a guy myself, I can say yeah. do it. I'm an Egyptian guy, and whatever steps that would be taken would apply to me, even though I'm not one of the trash. But I think it's worth it regardless. And speaking of blackmailing women, here's a fun thing I found. I'll tell you something awesome Dad just told me. Some people came to him because their son got sentenced to 15 years because he was in a relationship with a girl and has intimate photos of her, and a friend of his was blackmailing her with it. So she filed a case against both, and it was found that he's doing this with multiple girls, so he got the sentence. So they're trying to find a solution to get the girl to let it go. I'm assuming this girl's father is a lawyer, given the context. And this is honestly hilarious. I'm glad the judicial system actually did something about this, and I hope to see more of it. And as a cherry on top, here's a response to that from a retard. And how long shall she be sentenced to for being a whore and sending her photos to a stranger? Welcome to Egypt. Now, back to the murder. Get me the fuck out of here, please. Find me any fucking place and throw me there. It would be better than here with all this shit, oppression, audacity, and entitlement we face daily. To end, NBC Masr reported on this incident, sharing the detail we already mentioned, but towards the end they mentioned an interesting statistic.
وفي مسح للجرائم المنشورة في الصحف المصرية خلال الربع الأول من العام الجاري، قالت مؤسسة تدوين لدراسات النوع الاجتماعي إن مصر شهدت 51 حالة قتل وانتحار لسيدات، وأن الأغلبية كانت لحالات القتل بنسبة تجاوزت 90%. وأشارت الدراسة أيضاً أن أكثر من 80% من حالات قتل النساء هذه ارتكبت بواسطة أحد أفراد الأسرة.
And keep in mind, those numbers are the ones we get to hear about. Fuck knows how many more there are. So I casually mentioned the banning of niqab in schools. That's an actual decision made by the Ministry of Education. Niqab, not hijab, don't get it twisted.
Don't get it twisted.
Hijab is mandatory in Islam, but niqab isn't and is generally only worn by extremists. The Minister of Education, Rida Hijazi, signs on the decision to ban female students from wearing niqab in schools in Egypt.
Expecto Patronum!
Now, I personally agree with this decision. I think niqab should be banned in general. It masks your identity altogether. How is this shit even legal in the first place? It's a blatant ass double standard. I once got called over and searched by a cop for having a scarf over my mouth and nose on a cold day. And you're telling me niqab is alright? Anyway, as you can imagine, some people didn't like this decision too much, and some people even started using it as a promotional opportunity. The decision to ban niqab in schools drove our local ISIS guys, the ones who say a woman's face is akin to her genitals. That is an actual line from Islam. So they announced they're fighting for niqab. These nut jobs are the ones who lost their way in life and ruin our society and our youth's morals, thinking they are doing well. And while they're at it, it's a nice marketing opportunity. Any girl with niqab on taking lessons with me will get 50% off. Any girl with niqab that comes for a checkup will get 50% off. Hashtag no to banning niqab. I think the decision was just a red herring to distract the people from the other glaring issues in the country right now. So, after the slab of misogyny I just served you, let me give you some hypocritical support of women to wash it down with. The Egyptian House of Fatwa, which are like the people to go to for all things Islam in Egypt, support the hiring of Rafia Arshad as the first Muslim judge with hijab in England. Now, this sounds all nice and dandy, until you realize there are no female judges in Egypt. Zero. They are legally not allowed to be judges because according to religion, they are lacking in religion and mind, and that is also an actual lie. And so they cannot be trusted with such power. Additionally, a woman's testimony in court amounts to less than a man's, meaning you need multiple women to testify for the same thing for it to get a chance of being taken into consideration. But since this is in England, where Muslims are more or less a minority, this is a victory for them. The idea that there is a law there and her being Muslim has no impact on it whatsoever is absent from their minds. Because of course it is. Them being the majority here, minorities don't have jack shit when it comes to rights. Women just had a rough month. Even the environment isn't letting them be. In Dahab, a woman got attacked by a shark and lost one of her arms. Interestingly enough, the shark had been spotted prior to this, but allegedly, the security there denied it, dismissing it as being another type of fish, not a shark.
هم دلوقتي بيرموا حاجات عشان يصطادوه ويطلعوه من البحر.
السمكة أصلا في مشكلة إنها مش قادرة تتحصل على غذائها بشكل طبيعي، وده اللي ممكن بيسهل هجومها على البشر للحصول على الطعام.
في قرش هنا في دهب. طبعا أنا كنت شايفها من الصبح بس كنت مفكرة سمكة تونة عنيدة. كل دراع الست أهو بيجروا بيها في تيران دهب. كل دراع الست. ايوه شفت دراعها بتاكل. وطبعا من الصبح بيهاجم. وطلع الامن لما انا قلت لهم قالوا لي لا ده على فكره سمكه تونه عنيده مش قرش. وطبعا طلع قرش في تيرانه في دهب وهو كان هنا على الشط، حرفيا كان على الشط. وساعتها اختي زعقت وقالت لهم يلا بسرعه اطلعوا.
If anyone is planning on going to Dahab soon, expect the beach to be closed for a week or two. And yes, guys, this is expected to happen again and again. Unregulated fishing plus trash dumping near beaches plus lack of any safety regulation at the beach. It's all a recipe for repeating incidents like this. Even though their presence in a place like Dahab was rare, it was always possible. And it will not change unless regulations are actually enforced in the Red Sea. We're tired of asking, honestly. Just a few days ago, there were news about people fishing in a preserve. What we see further in the sea is so much worse. Fishing boats destroying marine life and still operating even though it's illegal, but words fall on deaf ears. I don't know what kind of disaster are we waiting for to change. Just a few months ago, there was another shark attack, and over the past years, this has been happening more and more. So this guy isn't talking out of his ass. There really is an issue that nobody wants to fix or even address. The girl that was bit by a shark in Dahab is 24 years old and Egyptian, spending her honeymoon. She was rescued by a freediving champion who literally pulled her from the shark's jaws. God protect everyone and heal her. Kudos to that guy for his bravery and for his initiative. We need more champions like this. An interesting phenomenon that's been happening recently is Egyptian sports champions, mostly solo sports like martial arts, escaping the country, running away while outside for an event or just straight up running away, which I don't blame them for, obviously. The only thing worse than being in Egypt is being famous in Egypt.
Very.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? We have some work to do.
A member of the managing council of the wrestling union, the runaway wrestler Saif Shukri is to be brought in for refusing to answer calls from the Egyptian wrestling union. Bro ran off to Poland. Interestingly enough, the guy actually came out and explained why he did what he did.
ليه أنا أبويا يبقى مديون بسببي؟ عشان عايز يصرف عليا وعايز يجيب لي مكملاتي وعايز يجيب لي أكلي وشربي. مديون عشان عايز يصرف عليا أنا وأخواتي كويس. قسما بالله أنا واصل لمرحلة مش عارف أجيب جزمة المصارعة لنفسي. جزم المصارعة بتاعتي اتقطعت ومش عارف أجيب جزمة المصارعة لنفسي. وبلزق الجزم دي عشان أعرف أتمرن. أنا مبقاش بطل أفريقيا أكتر من مرة وما باخدش 1% من واحد قاعد دكة طول السنة في الأهلي أو الزمالك بيلعب كورة.
مرتبه لما رجع من بطولة أفريقيا كان في حدود صافي بياخد في إيده في حدود 750 جنيه تقريبا في الشهر.
إحنا لا ننضف هقول إيه غير كده؟ طيب أنا لاعب منتخب مصر المصارعة الحرة سيف الدين شكري. أنا بطل أفريقيا 5 مرات، مرتين بالميدالية الذهبية ومرتين بالميدالية الفضية ومرة بالميدالية البرونزية، ومصنف عالميا أكتر من مرة، وبطل العرب الحمد لله من أول مشاركة دولية ليا بفضل بفضل الله جبت الميداليه الذهبيه في بطوله افريقيا للشباب والميداليه البرونزيه في بطوله افريقيا للكبار. شاركت في الاثنين نظرا يعني الحمد لله تميزي، والفرحه ما كانتش ساعاني طبعا، وانا شايف علم مصر قدامي والنشيد الوطني معزوم. تعبت كتير قوي عشان اللحظه دي، وابويا وامي تعبوا معايا كتير جدا، وابويا صرف عليا كتير جدا 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 عشان اوصل للحظه دي. انا بلعب مصارعه من عندي 5 سنين. رجعت طبعا مصر وانا فرحان جدا وفخور جدا، على اساس بقى ان في دماغي بقى حاجات تانية، والدنيا هتحلو بقى، والدنيا هتزهزه معايا، والفلوس بقى والعربيه بقى والشقه وكده. رجعت طبعا قالوا لي طبعا في مرتب، طبعا هيبقى في مرتب ان شاء الله وفي مكافاه. قلت لهم المرتب كام؟ قالوا لي ان شاء الله باذن الله بمقاطعه 850 هيبقوا 745 بعد الضرايب والضمان. ألف مبروك، 745 جنيه في الشهر. طب في مكافأتين، مكافأة الميدالية الذهبية في الشباب ومكافأة الميدالية البرونزية في الكبار. قال لي لا والله انت هنقدر نديك مكافأة على الميدالية الذهبية في بطولة الشباب، بطولة الكبار الميدالية البرونزية مش هينفعوا. المكافأة بقى انا في دماغي بقى مكافأة بطولة افريقيا بقى، يعني حاجة توب. وسكت. والمكافأة دي خدتها بعديها بسنة، يعني أنا خدت البطولة شهر 3 2019، خدت المكافأة شهر 3 2020 وأنا رايح بطولة أفريقيا التانية. فاتصدمت طبعا جدا ورجعت واتمرنت تاني وتعبت تاني واتصبت تاني واتصرف عليا تاني وأبويا تعب معايا جدا جدا جدا، وأبويا صرف عليا دم قلبه يعني. واللي مش عارف المصارعة بتحتاج مصاريف كبيرة جدا، وللأسف الوضع زي ما هو معايا لحد يعني معيش عجلة مش ولا عربية ومعيش عجلة حتى اروح بيها التمرين واجي من التمرين. وانا بقول طبعا لوالدي والدتي انا اسف ان انا عملت الخطوه دي من غير ما اقول لكم، وكان لازم اخد الخطوه دي لان لازم اشيل عنك ابوك.
Now this is just ridiculous. Bro got continental medals multiple times and is still not even able to stay afloat. I mean shit, 5,000 Egyptian pounds for a gold medal. This is not far from the minimum salary in here, which is around 3,000. And the monthly salary for him is literally unlivable, let alone suitable for a fucking global champion. Honestly, good on him. Fuck this place. I wouldn't want anything to do with it either if I were him.
I have no money!
The Egyptian pound has been on a downwards trend all my life, but it wasn't all that bad. I remember days when it was 3 Egyptian pounds per $1 in the early 2000s. And then, when things got so bad under Mubarak, it was approaching 6 per $1, which like, that's literally its value cut in half. But, I don't know how to tell you this. It's 31 now for $1, and things are priced with the assumption that it's worth 40 to 45, which it is. The official number is just that. Since when did Egyptian official numbers mean anything? And this slippery slope started only last October. It was 16 back then. Bad, sure, but now it is less than 1/3 of its already diminished value. And obviously wages and pensions didn't go up a penny, so keep that in mind. Someone here who runs a dog shelter just outside of Cairo shares an interesting experience of his. I just paid 850 Egyptian pounds for 36 kilos of carrots from El Ubur market. Add to them gas and checkpoint passes, it's around 1,000 Egyptian pounds for less than 40 kilos. The kilo is costing me 25, which is 24 more than it was last year. Meaning that in a year, carrots cost now 2,400% more.
Okay, great job everyone, except for you.
Inflated.
Carrot. That was fucking
inflated.
W. Carrot.
I would be equally
inflated
tomorrow.
What's that?
Nothing.
Another woman retweeted a tweet of hers from 2013 which says, a kilo of Emmental cheese costs now 165 Egyptian pounds. I used to buy it before the revolution for 95 only. It was a terrible revolution.
Oh, boo-hoo! Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
Now she comments on this saying, a kilo of Emmental cheese has reached 1,000 Egyptian pounds. Now worth pointing out that this person is higher class, who live in Egypt as opposed to Masr like the rest of us, judging by the general vibe and the fact that she even knows what this stuff is and buys it regularly.
What the fuck is that even supposed to mean?
To which a nerd replies with a Wikipedia copy-paste. Emmental cheese is a type of cheese whose name is derived from the Emmental region in Canton Bern in Switzerland where it is made. Emmental cheese is made of cow milk and is famous for having holes of varying sizes. The holes are a substance that is added to the milk, which is a type of bacteria, and no, nobody cares, bro, sorry. Evident by the people racking on it, with kindness of course. So the cheese that Jerry would eat wasn't Rumi? Turns out the world has more types of cheese other than Rumi, white, Arish and Nesto, guys. To close, let's get back to inflation. I always think that today I have money, but what about tomorrow? Today I turn on the faucet and get water, but what about tomorrow? Today there is food and gas, but what about tomorrow? I never was this pessimistic, and neither was I, but here we are. So I've said before that they are methodically removing all vegetation and green from Egypt, and it is true. Until today, they finally realized how bad of an idea this is, and so they went back and replanted. Oh, wait, what the fuck is that? Please tell me this isn't a plastic tree.
Are you fucking kidding me?
It is a plastic tree, isn't it?
A few moments later.
Look at this dude.
So you saw in my 1K special some Egyptian dances from the lower class, and there in that video I mentioned that the middle class despise dancing for religious reasons, and I'm about to show proof for that. So at some graduation party, a Nubian student starts dancing on stage. I see nothing wrong with what she's doing. Aside from it being modest, this is a cheery event. Why shouldn't she be allowed to express her happiness? Also, Nubians are closer to African and black culture than Arab culture like the rest of Egypt is. And if you know anything about these people, you know that they love to dance. And they got moves too. This prompts another Egyptian student to dance after her, also being perfectly modest, I might say. What do do the Muslimites do? They play a Muslim song at their graduation, which is like barely even a song, it's closer to a hymn, in the pharmaceuticals faculty in Asyut. This is more akin to a funeral than a graduation. Actually, you know what? I bet you if I played the ISIS anthem over this, it would fit too.
صليل الصوارم نشيد الأباء ودرب القتال طريق الحياة فبين اقتحام يبيد الطغاة وكتيم صوت جميل صدى.
Perfect match. Anyway, this is just Muslims being petty in response to their rules not applying to everyone. Something they excel at. This is the kind of party that represents us, was the caption to this stunt. I want you to just tell me, how many Christians do you think are graduating their represents? Shut the fuck up, you're bullies. And now the comments. It has nothing to do with Islamists, it has to do with respecting the customs and traditions of the university. Newsflash, if they had an issue with it, they would have shut it down. You can hear the announcer telling the audience to clap for her even. So you can get out of here, sir, with your ID looking ass profile photo. Mockeries in public. What religion? What Islam? Okay bro, go get your saber and go liberate Jerusalem or fight the Jews if you're so worried for Islam and let people have good things.
Khalid Kashmiri.
I love her. She's beautiful and lighthearted. You shouldn't be charmed by her. Sister, beware. That guy is being sarcastic. He left another comment of his own on the video saying, the crassness of Islamists shows by shoehorning religion into a graduation event. There is no expression of joy and their faces are rotten from their religious rigorism. A normal human happy with her success. Allah bring her joy.
Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here.
That was the Egyptian equivalent of whoever loses is a rotten egg. All the kids say it and it displays two things from the culture. The first is that fuck women. As most insults are directed at the mother rather than the father, even though Arabic adjectives can be grammatically gendered to suit either. And the second thing is that dancing is a no-no. You've already seen plenty of proof, and this video is getting longer than my dick. Longer than I planned, so let's just cut to the point. Someone tweeted saying, write something your followers don't know about you. And a silly man, a naive, innocent soul, a sweet summer child, an absolute goofball, said grandma from that side was a dancer. Now, a few people were in favor of this because they like that she was a dancer or commending him for his bravery. Good job, honestly. I love your granny. Good job. But the majority, well, God rest her soul, that woman who's getting mocked in her grave for nothing. And even the English-speaking Egyptoids, who are supposed to be progressive, open, educated and shit. I think that's enough Twitter for you today. You got too comfortable with us, mate. My dad's grandma was married to his grandpa as a muhallil and was supposed to divorce him and go back to her first husband. But she refused and loved the muhallil instead and had kids with him. A muhallil, to those unfamiliar, is a man who marries a woman who has been divorced, then divorces her so she can go back to her previous husband. This is a loophole.
That ain't sin, that's a loophole.
In Islam, you can't remarry your wife after you divorce her, but it says nothing about if another man divorces her after you. So they get a random guy, have him marry her for a certain time period, then divorce her so she can get back to her previous husband. Clown shit. When your parents leave you with the guests for 5 minutes as a kid, he sacrificed himself for us. Not even the FBI would be able to get this information out of me. I can't. Twitter is a beautiful place. I've been in a bad mood all day, but I just laughed so hard. I feel like I need to say a secret about myself so we're even. Things I wouldn't confess even if I'm being electrocuted in the Mossad. If Batman grabbed me and fucked me up, he would never get such a piece of information out of me. How do you guys talk so nonchalantly? You're on Twitter, bro, not in a midday nap. Calm down. He has won, but at what cost? Granny was bad. Things I wouldn't say, even to myself. So there's another checkup on the Egyptian society. You guys doing okay in there? Okay. They're as crazy and ever and then some. If you'd like to help me get out of this madhouse and pursue my dream of studying in Germany, please consider donating through the link in the description. Other than that, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and most importantly,
wash your ass. Toilet paper is good, but water is much better idea.